Hi all, welcome back to Enchanting English. Today we are going to learn conditional clauses. And this exercise is very important for all the students of standard 10, 11 and 12. And we make use of conditional clauses in our daily conversation and writing too. So a thorough knowledge of this is very essential. So come, let's learn. Conditional clauses, otherwise known as if clauses. The other name for conditional clause is if clause. Okay, right. Why do we call it as if clause? Because most of the conditional clauses are introduced by the conjunction if. That's why it is called as if clause. So to make it clear, let me give you an example. If you study well, you will pass. If you study well, you will pass. Now, when you examine the sentence, there are two clauses here. If you study well, one clause, and the other one, you will pass. You will pass can stand on its own, so it is the main clause. So you can split the sentence like this. This is a subordinate clause and this is a main clause. You will pass is a main clause. If you study well is the subordinate clause, and this is known as conditional clause or if clause because you have used the conjunction if here. Now, this is example for type 1. Type 1 condition. So when you speak about conditional clauses, you have three main types of conditional clauses apart from the zero type. So what I have written here now is first type, type 1. It is known as open condition. Okay, right. If you study well, you will pass. So what is the condition here? Studying well. And you will get the result. You will pass. What is the result? You will pass is the result. Right. And this result you can get only if this condition is fulfilled. This is known as the open condition. And here, when you look at it, you understand that here this condition should happen in the present and its result will be seen in the future. You will pass. Okay. So if you are ready to work hard, ready to study well, you will get the result. You will pass. Okay. Right. Now look at this tense used here. Look at the verb study. This is simple present tense. If you understand, this is simple present tense. And what is the tense form used here? Will pass. Right? Okay. So you have used simple future tense here, you can say. But at the same time, you should understand that this will can be replaced with some more words, some more verbs. Like you can use shall, you can use can, and you can use may. So you have four options here. Instead of using will, you can use any one of these, which are, I told you, will and then shall, then you can have can and you can have may. Okay, right. Any one of these is possible, and only difference is that when you make use of these verbs, there's a slight change in meaning. Okay, will and shall shows of course a future action, can shows ability, may shows possibility. So that is the difference that you will find here. Okay, right. So here in present tense, in the conditional clause, you have used simple present tense here, and here you have used will. Okay, so you can just remember it like this. You will get any of these modal auxiliaries. I hope you remember what is meant by modal auxiliaries, right? So these are the present forms, these four forms you will be making use of, right? Will, shall, can and may. So this is type 1. Okay, if you study well, you will pass. This is example for type 1. Okay, this is type 1. Now, you can also speak about another condition, that is unreal or hypothetical condition, which is not likely to happen at all. So, I may use sentences like, if I were a bird, I would fly. If I were a bird, I would fly. Again here, I have used two clauses, right? If I were a bird, then I would fly. I would fly can stand on its own. So this is the main clause part, and here this is a subordinate clause. Again here this is conditional clause because you have used if here. If I were a bird, I would fly. Is it possible that you will become a bird? No, it happens only in your imagination, right? It is not likely to happen, okay? So this is a hypothetical condition or an unreal condition. And look at the tense forms that you have used here. You have were here, okay? So what is this? This is simple past tense, right? Okay. Now, look at the verb form that you have used here, would fly, right? Here we used will and here we have used would, which is the past tense form of will, okay, right? The past tense form of will is would, right? So similarly, I can also say instead of using would, the remaining past forms. What are the past forms? For will it is would, for shall it is should, and for can it is could, then for may it is might, right? Okay, all these are possible, right? All these are possible, but you must understand that normally we avoid using the other form. Normally we use would, okay, right? So the normal form is would. Here I would fly, okay? This speaks about an unreal condition. Speaks about an unreal condition, okay? So what is the tense form that you have used here? This is simple past tense. Again, when you get simple past tense here, naturally what happens here? You get the past form of the modal auxiliary, okay? Here you cannot use will. It has become would here, okay? Right. So this says about imaginary condition. This is type 2. This is called as type 2, or in other words we call it as unreal or imaginary condition or hypothetical condition, okay? Now children, let's learn what is the form of type 3, okay? Type 3 conditional clause. Type 3 conditional clause is called as unfulfilled condition, okay, right? So I can give you an example like this. If you had studied well, if you had studied well, you would have passed. You would have passed. You would have passed. Now, when I say if you had studied well, you would have passed, I mean you did not study well, so you did not pass. Okay, right. Now again here, there are two clauses. This is a main clause. This is a subordinate clause. Again here you can find if. So this is conditional clause introduced by if. Okay, right. So if you had studied well, you would have passed. Look at the verb form used here, had studied. What is the tense form here? Past perfect tense. You know that when you make verb form with had, it becomes past perfect tense. So had plus past participle, this is past perfect tense, right? Okay, so we make use of past perfect tense here. And now look at the tense form used here. Would have passed. Okay, would have passed. After would you have used have. Okay, so you have used a perfect form. So with these modal auxiliaries, you have to use have. Okay, would have, should have, could have, might have, any one of this is correct for this sentence. Okay, right. So you would have passed. Remember, so when you get perfect form here you get a perfect word. You know that has, have and had. These are used for perfect tenses. Okay, so when you get perfect tense here in type 3, you get have here. This you have to understand, okay? And now this is called as type 3. This is also called as unfulfilled condition. If you had studied well, you would have passed. Meaning the condition was not fulfilled. Meaning you did not study well. And so you didn't get the result. What was the result? You would have passed. You did not pass. The result, if you had studied well, you would have passed means you did not study well. So you did not pass. Okay. So this is called as unfulfilled condition. So this is very easy to identify the different types of conditional clauses, type 1, 2 or 3 by looking at the tense forms. Okay, the tense in the conditional clause tells you whether it is type 1, type 2 or type 3. Okay, so remember in type 1 you get simple present tense, in type 2 you get simple past tense, in type 3 you get past perfect tense. Okay, all these in if clauses. And also at the same time you have to remember that you can write this sentence by placing if clause as a second clause. You would have passed if you had studied well. That's quite fine. Sentence is correct. Okay, so it's okay if you place it either in the beginning or as a second part of the sentence. Okay, so this is example for type 3. Okay, right. Now let's learn about yet another type of conditional clause, that is zero type or type 0 conditional clause. So here we speak about scientific truth or things which have got general validity. Okay, so you can say if you heat ice, it melts. Okay, if you heat ice, it melts. So I have given you a condition here. If you heat ice, look at the tense form that is used. Heat, you know that it is simple present tense, and melts is again simple present tense. So here in this type of conditional clause, we use simple present tense in both the clauses, meaning in conditional clause and in main clause we use the same tense, that is simple present tense. There is no change. This is for things of general validity, while expressing things of general validity and while expressing scientific truth. Okay, so if you heat ice, it melts. If you heat it today, it melts. Again tomorrow if you do it, you get the same result. Okay, so you use the same tense form here, simple present tense. This is type 0. Now we are going to learn how to do inversion in clauses. This is a very important exercise because it's very often used in examination, asked in examination. So let us learn about inversion in conditional clauses. Okay, inversion is possible in conditional clauses. What do you mean by inversion? Changing the word order. Okay, so let me give you an example. If Tina had invited me, I would have attended the party. I would have attended the party. Okay, I would have attended the party. If Tina had invited me, I would have attended the party. Now look at the sentence. This can be rewritten without changing its meaning in other words. Okay, in another form. How can I do it? I can make an inversion here. And what do you mean by inversion? Now this is if conjunction, this is a subject and this is a verb. Okay, this is the auxiliary verb and this is a main verb. You know that this is main verb, this is auxiliary. So when you do inversion, you bring the auxiliary verb first. Okay, so how can you rewrite the sentence? You can write it like this. Had Tina invited me, had Tina invited me, I would have attended. There's no change in the second part of the sentence. I would have attended the party. Had Tina invited me. So this is equal to if Tina had invited me. Okay, so what's the change that you are doing here? You are bringing the auxiliary verb first, and when you do it, you must not use your conjunction if. You have to omit or avoid using conjunction if. Okay, right. So we say had Tina invited me, I would have attended. Okay, so if you are given clauses like this and if you are asked to change or if you are asked to do inversion, this is what you are supposed to do. Okay, you have to change the word order. Okay, had Tina invited me, I would have attended the party. Similarly, this is example for type 3. You know, the had invited, the verb form is had invited, past perfect tense, right? So we use, this is type 3, you understood. Now, let me give you an example from type 2, imaginary condition. If I were a butterfly, I would suck the nectar from the flowers. I would suck the nectar from the flowers. Right? If I were a butterfly, I cannot be a butterfly. It happens only in my imagination. So this is an imaginary condition. And how can this be rewritten using inversion? I told you were is a verb form here, right? So what do? You have to bring the verb first. You write, were I a butterfly? Were I a butterfly, I would suck the nectar. Okay, there's no change in the second part. You have just changed the word order. This is how you do inversion. Were I a butterfly, I would suck the nectar in the flowers. Okay, this is known as inversion, and this is very, very important because you get it for the examination. So try to learn how to do inversion, and remember here inversion is possible only with type 3 and type 2, and it's not possible with type 1. Okay, so type 1 we don't write using inversion, and we cannot do it. Only for type 2 and type 3 inversion is possible. Now let's look at some sentences where you have to fill in the blanks using the correct tense form, and this is given to you to check your understanding. Let us look at the sentences given to you. If I had a pen, I dash give it to you. Okay, and you are asked to fill in the blanks using the correct tense form. Now, how do you understand the correct tense form here? For that, you have to identify the type of clause given to you. Right, the first one, if I had a pen. So, you have to look at the verb given to you, and that will tell you what type is given to you. If I had a pen, okay. So, immediately you must recall what you have already learned. Had is given here. You may think had comes in type 3, right? And you may easily get confused here. Remember, had only if it is used along with the main verb, it is past perfect tense. Otherwise, it is simple past tense. Here, if I had a pen, after this you don't have any other verb. There is no main verb after this. So, had alone is used here. So, this is a simple past tense of have. Okay, so you must understand simple past tense is given. So, what type is that? It is type 2 imaginary condition. Okay, so how do you write it here? If I had a pen, I dash give it to you. So, in type 2, you have to use the past forms of auxiliary verbs, modal auxiliaries. So, your options are would, could, should and might. And here, we avoid using the other 3 forms. Normally, we use the will past tense form, that is would. Okay, so what will you write here? Your correct answer is I would give. This is the right form. Okay, I would give it to you. Look at the second sentence. The second sentence is this. If he had confessed the truth, we dash forgive him. Now, again look at the tense form. Had confessed. Had confessed. What tense form is that? This is past perfect tense, right? So, past perfect tense tells you about type 3. So, what is the tense form that you have to use here? You have to remember, you have to use have form along with would and its past participle form. So, that is type 3. So, how do you write? If he had confessed the truth, we would have, then what is the past participle of forgive? Forgiven, right? So, how do you write? Forgiven, right? So, we write, we would have forgiven him, right? We would have forgiven. So, always remember, when you get type 3, we use the perfect form, and with perfect form, we always use verb 3 only, past participle only. That's why forgive gives forgiven, okay? Forgiven, okay. Now, look at the third one. If the players play well, their dash win is given in bracket, the match. Again, look at the tense form used here. You have play, right? What tense is that? That is simple present tense, right? It is simple present tense. Now, simple present tense, immediately you should remember simple present tense comes for type 1, and hence your answer is here the present forms of the modal auxiliary. So, you can write they will win the match. Will win. Okay. Here remember you can also replace this with can. Okay. That shows ability. Okay. Right. And if you use may instead of that, they may win the match. You speak about possibility. You highlight the possibility. That's the only difference. But any of these answers is fine here. Now let's move on to another task, which is combining the sentences using if clause. So look at the sentence that I have got for you here. I did not know her address. I could not visit her. There are 2 sentences and you are asked to change or asked to combine it using if clause, right? So remember here, I did not know her address. Did not know, that is simple past tense, something that happened or did not happen in the past. Then I could not visit her, could not visit her. That did not happen in the past. So both the sentences speaks about something that happened or did not happen in the past. So both refers to past time. So remember, in this case you can use only type 3. So remember, when you are given two sentences where the incident happened in the past or did not happen in the past, you must use type 3. Okay, right. So immediately you should remember the form of type 3. Type 3, you know that if clause will get past perfect tense, and the other side you get would have, could have, etc. plus with past participle form. Okay, so how do you write it? I did not know her address. And the other thing that you have to remember is that when you combine using type 3, your negative sentence becomes positive and your positive sentence becomes negative, vice versa. Okay, right. So how do you write? I did not know her address. Now I am going to combine the sentence using if. If I, right. Now did not know, that's simple past tense given. Now you are going to change this into type 3. Type 3, what's the tense form? Had. If I had, what is the past participle of know? Known. If I had known her address, if I had known her address, right, I, right, could not visit her is given here. So here you can make use of the same modal auxiliary. I could. Now that should be followed by have. You know that in type 3, could have, should have, must, might have, etc. we use, right? So could have visited her. Visited, past participle of visit is visited. Visited her, right? So if I had known her address, I could have visited her. So what change did we do here? Did not, this is negative. That has become positive now. There is no not used here. Similarly, could not, there is not here, but now here you don't have not. So that has become positive. Both the parts are negative and in your answer it is positive. Okay, so this simple clue you have to bear in your mind, and with this very easily you can do any kind of sentences like this which are to be combined using conditional clauses. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let's now tell you the last very important thing. You can replace if with unless. That is another sentence, another exercise that you may get. Now, this is quite simple, right? How to rewrite the sentence using unless. Okay, remember unless is a negative of if. Okay, so unless is equal to if not. Okay, right. If you don't study well, you will fail. This is a sentence given to you and you are asked to change the sentence or rewrite the sentence using unless. What do you do? This if should be replaced. So how will you write? Unless you study well. Unless you study well, you will fail. There is no change in the second part. Unless you study well, you will fail. Unless is equal to if not. Okay, so if you use unless here, there is already not here. That's why we are not using it here. Unless you study well, you will fail. So this don't study has become study here because this is negative. Okay, so unless you study well, you will fail. Okay, so any sentence you can replace using unless because unless is a negative form of if. Okay, so this is yet another exercise that you can expect for the examination. I hope everything is clear to you now. Thank you for watching. Keep practicing at home. Thank you. Bye.